Welcome, and thank you for joining us at Live at Your Table today. Before we get started with our discussion on the how-to of training that drives performance and profit, we'd like to take an opportunity to share some housekeeping notes. All audience members are on listen-only mode, which means you are muted. We will be monitoring audience engagement on the dashboard and do encourage you to participate by using the question pane. There'll be time for questions at the end of the presentation. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website, westernfoodexpo.com, in the coming week. Now, without further delay, let me introduce Rudy Mick, CMC, founder and president of the Mick Companies, LLC. Thank you, Rudy, for being with us today.
It is my pleasure, Amy. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to How To of Training that drives performance and profit. Engagement drives cash. Team engagement, guest engagement drives cash and profitability. That's where we're headed. Point 2, culture equals brand. What does that mean? Culture is largely habits that we undertake, traditions or rituals that we take, regardless of our concept, regardless of the size of our company, regardless of the market segment we're in. Where we're headed is how to turn training into engagement that drives performance and profit. A bonus is, how does it also drive team retention? Everything I'm going to share with you is focused on current moments, our time in COVID, looking at essential workers, looking at absolutely what is an essential industry, and information, tools, and approach each of us can take and put to place right now in our brand. So back to culture and brand. If the goal is the engagement of the team and the team then engages guests, the opportunity that we sit with is there's all kinds of brand promise that happens, and through social media, through whatever sort of marketing realms we have, including word of mouth, here is this brand promise. Brand experience, though, is an absolute outcome of training and feedback that we give our team on a regular basis. If the brand promise and the brand experience don't match, we're in trouble. So it's incumbent on us to absolutely put in place these training opportunities to define excellence and actually see, no matter what our product is, if our check average is $5, $50, $150, it's irrelevant. What is the brand experience we want to create for our guests? And how do we go beyond service? How do we go beyond experience and actually create brand engagement? So there's our opportunity and the core of what I want to share with you. Great training is really comprised of 3 things: content, what is it, where the information we're going to share; process, how do we share it; and number 3, probably the least activated part of training, is the kind of feedback we present and provide our team. So everything I want to hand to you today and go through today comes from a proven track record with my own restaurants, with restaurants that we manage under contract, and with our consulting clients, which now is over 1,753, over a 40-year track record. Data, not bragging. Even in COVID, our clients are cash positive, they're profitable, and solid. We're making decisions in real time, at speed, based on a lot of the information that I want to share with you here. So great training, content, process, feedback. Number 4 is that training builds on itself. So from entry into the building up through management, leadership, partnership, ownership, whatever the fact or process is, how does training build on itself? So we're going to go through those 4 points. Over all the years that I've been playing in our industry, there is a training minefield. My sense is the big 7 issues are this. Number 1, there's no budget. My invite here, you can course correct this really quickly. Put training as a line item on your financial statement or on your P&L. If you don't have it on there, put it on there. Figure out how. Number 2, there's no hiring system. We wait and hire. Now, what does hiring have to do with training? Hiring, without great hiring, training is almost irrelevant. So we're going to look at this in just a minute. No hiring system in place means that basically I'm stuck the second somebody quits or gives notice. I'm out there, and if somebody's got a pulse, they're hired. Does that sound familiar? There's only 3 reasons people work and consequently get trained. One is they're looking for a job. If I don't have a hiring system in place, I'm likely gonna take that first person that walks in the door. If they've got a pulse, they're hired. If they have some experience, they're hired. Unfortunately, that person that's just looking at getting a job may or may not be the right fit for us. That is a complete crapshoot, and watch out. Second is somebody's drawn to, or we've created a threatening or fear-based work environment, and I am a personality profile as an applicant that actually works okay in that. I tend to have reasons, stories, excuses for being late, for not following through, for not following the handbook, for not really listening, and we end up with high turnover. We end up with all kinds of challenges and problems out of that environment. Last but not least, the way to engender engagement is to hire an inspired workforce and then support them to maintain that inspiration. COVID has been a great gift in odd ways by finally saying, hey, we're an essential industry. And more so, my team is an essential workforce. How cool is that? How do we play on this issue further? So let's keep walking through. We want an inspired team to drive engagement. An outcome of this system, by the way, the typical industry turnover rate is well over 180%, sometimes into the low 200% per annum. In our client systems, in my own restaurants, we're running about 25% turnover, pre-COVID, even currently. So pay attention to that. So no budget, no hiring system. We haven't defined purpose or our values. Maybe that's the case. Sometimes purpose and values are called the why and the how. We've been working with purpose for well over 30 years and defining our culture through values, decision making, and a sense of purpose. If you've heard me speak before, you've no doubt heard the definition of the word restaurant. When I think of purpose, I go beyond hospitality. My sense is, and in fact, the real definition of the word, the root definition of restaurant, is a place one goes to be restored. And restaurateur literally is a place, a restorer of soul. So I have a dishwasher in my restaurant. He looks like a dishwasher, or she looks like a dishwasher, but she's actually a restorer of soul. I've got a host that looks like a host from the surface. Actually, she's a restorer of soul. Being an essential worker, working in hospitality, is as close as we've gotten to that restoral of soul place. So my question for you, to set up training effectively, again, no matter what the check average is or the concept of our restaurant or the market segment we're playing in, how do I keep looking and keep interviewing and having a system in place that we don't settle for a pulse? We keep interviewing until we find that person that is intrinsically inspired with their life, and looking for the opportunity for an experience that's going to impact people's lives. There's a real opportunity, and to do that on purpose, guided by values, to achieve the vision of a company that hopefully we share with everybody. Number 4 as a minefield is that we haven't defined excellence. And in fact, we rely on common sense. So welcome to the bigs. There is no common sense. It's done. So instead of relying on common sense, or another minefield is waiting for somebody that has experience. Maybe they've worked for Brinker. Maybe they've worked for Fridays. Maybe they've worked for Yum. Whatever the fact is, the good news is, great, they have some experience. The bad news is I've got 6 or 8 or 10 or 20 team members with lots of experience, but it's experience from all different places. Unless we've taken the time to define what excellence means for my brand and in my culture, I end up in this mixed up brand experience with my customers, and the customer may and typically will not be engaged from that. So take the time to define excellence. We're going to be talking quite a bit about that in the next 45 minutes or so. There is no common sense. Work beyond experience to get defined excellence for my brand. Last but not least, in the training minefield, is that typically we rely on compliments and criticism or sarcastic humor instead of actually having a feedback system in place. I'm going to give you some of what we call the MIC feedback system in terms of getting real performance in real time and actually coaching to the positive, as opposed to giving compliments or criticism. Let's see how that works. Excuse me. So again, our training opportunity right now, as crazy and harsh as COVID has been, and in this whole process, in an odd sort of way, COVID has been a great equalizer. If we haven't had our dining rooms open or our doors even open, at the very least, we have the opportunity to greet a guest coming to the door. Maybe they're getting carry out. Maybe we're delivering product. We're not going through a third-party delivery. We're actually delivering. Well, what is that brand experience at the door? Hands-free, touch-free. However, regardless, again, of the check average, of the segment in which we're working, all of us are greeting people at our door, and we have an opportunity for the first time to perform like a fine dining restaurant if we choose. All we have to do is think through, well, what are those touch points of excellence? How do I greet you? How do I trace temperature? How do I provide you a mask? Oh, for $1 donation to No Kid Hungry, or to one of my local nonprofits that we want to support in our neighborhood. You don't have a mask here, donate $1 here. We've got a mask for you. What does sanitation look like? And table turn look like? All of those pieces of initial connection create an opportunity for us to equalize the playing field. The other piece I really want to point out is that purpose drives profit. It so often in the world of the big why, or how, purpose, working for some higher purpose or deeper purpose, we talk about, well, what do we give up in profitability in order to be purpose driven? I'm here to tell you that I've been opening restaurants, building chains, doing turnarounds since the early 80s. And purpose does not have to be an alternative, and isn't an alternative to profitability. It actually is a driver. So lose the either or of profit or purpose, and actually step into defining my brand experience. Again, as essential workers, what a great door COVID's opened for us if we choose to see it that way. Purpose drives profit. Great training builds on each other. So we could be opening a new restaurant. We could be training a new hire. We could be opening a new restaurant in our chain. We could be growing or evolving. We could be training delivery. Probably some or all of those things are happening for you right now. I've got clients that are going through all of those things in the moment. I'm going to make the case that training builds on as early as the ads we post about hiring. So for instance, if think about this as a hiring or training experience, if I'm writing an ad, cooks wanted, hosts wanted, servers wanted, guess what I'm going to get? A pulse that's a cook. My opportunity in the ads I write is to tell the story of my brand, to tell how we're doing with essential work, to talk about our purpose, how we restore the soul, what our values are of treating each other with dignity and respect, communicating openly, honestly, making a profit, learning management skills, training that's ongoing, personal development, lifelong, so that I'm drawn to, and in fact can position ads that I'm looking for people maybe that are already working, not unemployed. That and certainly in COVID with so much unemployment, there's opportunity there as well. The point is, if I'm not happy in what I'm doing now, and I see an ad, no matter where it's posted, social media, one of the ad work sites, Craigslist, whatever it might be, wherever I post, even a sign in the window, if I tell my brand story, I'm more likely to get somebody that's looking to be inspired, looking to be engaged. What a concept. So think about training as an outcome of that experience bringing folks in the door. When that applicant shows up for the interview, their experience of my brand and the way I treat them in the interview is an opportunity to talk to them about, hey, if and when you get the opportunity to join us, we work on purpose. We use values. We provide feedback on an ongoing basis. We name the elephant in the room. I call it the moose in the room. We name the 800-pound gorilla. We name the unspoken. We give each other feedback to take our performance further, and that's part of the ongoing culture. So even in the interview, I'm beginning to set up effective training. Here comes ongoing or onboarding now. I'm hired. And also in the interviewing, one other thing I wanted to share briefly is that in interviews, I can actually do mini stage, a mini work experience. Let a host walk me to the table as a guest. Let a cook applicant grab a knife and cut a vegetable. Let a bartender pour a drink, fill a bottle with water with a jigger and a pour spout, pour an ounce and a quarter, pour an ounce and a half, use each hand. Go ahead and actually create a stage and see how people are working in real time. Create those experiences, which then set up the very training that we're going to be doing. In onboarding, how we treat each other, and again, how values, purpose is in place. Now we come to orientation, the beginning of actual training. Orientation is typically something that we're going to go through the employee handbook, harassment, hostile work environment, ways you can get terminated, etc. One of the things that we've done that I want to share with you about training is we've, with legal support in almost every state in the country, enough to say it's legal and doable, and actually in 6 other countries around the world. We've taken the legalese that is the typical employee handbook, And certainly where there is legal language around harassment, hostile workforce, at will, those kinds of things, those issues that I could be terminated up to and including termination, I'm going to keep those in legalese. Everything else we're writing now in first person, present tense. I will do, or I do this. I show up 5 minutes before the clock in time. I clock in on time, ready to go to work in uniform that is clean. I am aware that if I bring a weapon into the workplace, I will be terminated immediately. I am aware that if I steal, I will be terminated immediately. I'm aware that that kind of I statement, present tense, all of a sudden creates an ownership reality instead of you as an employee must be aware of XYZ. We're actually talking and creating equivalent of a contract that says, I accept, I know, I understand that these are the responsibilities of my job. And for the handbook, for harassment, for various at will, I actually have sign-offs. So there's an opportunity right out of the gate for ownership attitude and guess what? Engagement. There's real opportunity here. With positions and jobs training, what I want to share with you here, typically we think of hiring jobs. I want to hire a server. I want to hire a host. I want to hire a cashier or a server or a bartender. I want to offer that what I've found and my whole team's found is that I hire actually positions and we train jobs, meaning a bartender is a position, a server is a position, a host is a position. I'm going to stay with host for a moment. The host has multiple jobs. They greet, the host seats, the host wipes down a table, sanitizes it, lets the table sit for 10 minutes to have the sanitizer actually work at the functional level it's supposed to be, etc. So each of those jobs that I just named, the host hands the menu to the guest, albeit a paper one that's throwaway or a no touch, here's an app on my iPhone, here's how you get there. But all of those pieces are jobs for the position of host. Since we've been doing this and I've been training positions for about 15 years, what we found is the average position, host, server, etc., bartender, in some funny way, and same thing with the cooks in the heart of the house or the kitchen, on average, the average position has 19 to 21 jobs. It's very interesting. If there's more than 20 jobs, 21, 22, watch out because there is a limit about which the average employee, the average team member can actually hold all of that information. So pay attention. If you've got questions about this, feel free to reach out and give me a call. I'd be happy to talk to you more about it. So jobs training, position training leads me to leadership training, which in our world is all about communication. It's all about decision making. And leadership training is incumbent and a precursor to trainer training or manager training. So each of these training levels, all 7, build on the previous, takes my team member performance deeper, higher, further. So have fun with this, see how it works for you. Let's come back now to the number 1 of great training with content. So within the content, whatever it is I'm training, I may be using an LMS, short for Learning Management System, or not. Maybe you're still using paper handbooks, maybe you're using an iPad, whatever it might be, you may have an LMS. One big headline for any learning management system is if you've got people going home and training on their own time, looking at videos, reading menus, doing whatever, when they go home on their own time, That is payable hours of training. So from a legal place, know that that's the case. LMS are really fun because it's engaging. It is absolutely the future. Here we are on GoToMeeting. Zoom is the new Kleenex of technology. All of us are doing remote training and remote process, even hiring. So LMS, in my mind, is no doubt the future. How we can use that, we can go in more depth later, or let's see where your questions are. Beyond anything else we've said, with all the experience that any one of my team members may have, I want to define excellence within my brand. The way we make a taco, the way we make an Italian beef sandwich, the way we make a pizza, the way we make stir fry, whatever it might be. I want to define excellence, whether it's the heart of the house, the front of the house, doesn't matter. What is excellence in greeting? What is the mechanical action step that I'm doing? I'm walking towards you. I'm stopping at 6 feet. I'm making direct eye contact. You can't see my smile because I have a mask on, but you can hear my tone of voice, which is smiling. You can see my body language, which is going to translate to engaging. My shoulders are moving forward. My hands are moving. Lots of Italian here. Whatever the case may be, the defining of excellence is, in fact, that contact point. There's the movement. In addition to that, where is my art? If the science is the mechanics of movement, of action, the words I'm saying, name of the restaurant, the day part, an action statement. What is it I'm thinking? Which values am I using? That sort of process, both internal voice and external voice, I want to define excellence. I want to share data-based behavior. So for instance, instead of saying, hey, I need you guys to have a good attitude on the shift, on your first approach to a table, or when the guest walks to the door with a mask on or off, what's the data and what is the behavior that I need you to perform? So instead of, typically we'll stop and go, hey, I need you to have a good attitude with that guest when they arrive. My challenge for each of us is when we use phrases like good attitude, I don't even know what that means. So let's break it down into behaviors. It is good attitude. I make direct eye contact. I have a smile. My tone of voice translates to engaging. I make if a guest doesn't have a mask on, I invite them, hey, before I bring you into the dining room, it's masks only. I'm more than happy. We've got these masks here, and it's a $1 donation that goes 100% to No Kid Hungry, or it goes 100% to our team for training dollars, whatever it might be. The offer is those statements, those actions are taken, those are behaviors. Last but not least, in any content that I share, I want to share with my team member the why. So because I'm your trainer is not a good enough reason. Because I'm the owner or the manager isn't a good enough reason. It's just a tell. I'm now just your boss. The why is, well, how does this action, direct eye contact, endearing tone of voice, the donation of $1 for a mask, how do those actions translate into restoral of soul? How do those actions translate into hospitality? How do those actions translate into being an essential worker? That's what I mean when I say the why. So that everything we're teaching, each piece we're teaching, we're giving the reason why this is so important, and then we'll follow up later with feedback and process to reinforce that training. That brings us to process. And again, with an LMS, I have the opportunity to, hey, here's a short video, or we filmed today during the training, and you've got off of your smartphone, you've got a connection to take a look at how we're greeting the guest, how we're wiping down the stainless in the kitchen, how I'm julienning, doing a julienne of some produce in the kitchen, whatever the process might be, how we're carrying sharps or knives. Oh, the fact that we say behind you as we're walking beside somebody or behind somebody in the restaurant. So what is it that I'm doing to look at video, to read whatever the process of training materials are, or looking at video? In the process, I want to incorporate auditory, so audio, visual, reading or video. I want to also engage kinesthetic, the $50 word for exercises or body movement. So I actually want to move and do games or exercises to role plays you might think of, so that we're engaging all three components. The great majority of people maximize their learning. If I'm only telling you what to do, your retention is going to be, my team members' retention is going to be about 10%. If we tell and dialogue about it, that retention goes up to about 40 to 50%. If we tell, dialogue, and exercise, and then especially get feedback, the retention of the training goes up to 90% or higher. So the opportunity to do all three of those things is really, really important. Something to keep in mind is this: hard data. The management staff in the management quadrant of our industry has approximately right at 10% inability to read. So illiteracy, functional illiteracy, 10% in the world of management in the restaurant business. So without putting those folks on the spot, without they've worked really hard in their lives to work through the world of reading and getting by without understanding or having comprehension of reading. So again, this is a reason, and that's just management. I actually don't know the percentile for general staff, but 10% of the management population in the restaurant industry is functionally illiterate. It's a pretty amazing piece of data. So what I want to do is audio, visual, kinesthetic, reading, video, verbal, exercise. Quizzes we've got up here. Quizzes think about not pass fail, not slapping my hand, but in fact supporting learning. So on a learning management system in LMS, I can do quizzing, whether it's going clear back to orientation about at-will work environment or safety and sanitation, greeting a guest, whatever it might be, harassment issues. I can actually take a quiz multiple times, because what's way more important than passing or failing is that I have retention of the information and that I ultimately pass. Okay. Again, in the process, share the why. So exercises, I want to stay here just for a moment. Typically in the industry, regardless of segment, especially once our restaurants are open, the old habit has certainly been, oh, follow the trainer for a few days, then the trainer is going to follow you for a few days. The challenge with this is that Sally, trainer number 1, and Jim, trainer number 2, and Jorge, trainer number 3, all choose and share different amounts of information based on where their experience comes from, what company they worked before, or who trained them. All the more reason that we define excellence for our brand from arrival to departure, from ordering to laying down the check. how or no touch service, how are we using software platforms, whatever the process may be, what is our experience in our brand segment for our system. It's incumbent on the owners and the managers and the trainers to slow down to actually define excellence in my restaurant, in my company, and then train that exercise by exercise. Think of role plays. If I'm training with 2 other people, or maybe I'm just training all by myself with the trainer, let the trainer be the guest, let me be the team member greeting that guest. Go through that process time and again until I get it right. Forgive my hand drawing here. In decision making, and an absolute fundamental process of decision making and training people on my team to make decisions is, this might be one of the key things I share with you today, is whatever the issue is, if I've got my purpose, my big why defined, if we have values defined, what is the issue? To get to a solution, what are the values that apply to this issue? Whether, and from that model, so issue, values, solution, there are 2 fundamental questions to ask from this. Number 1, which values apply to this issue? And number 2, what are the behaviors that show up from these values? Which values apply? What are the behaviors that show up from these values? And I need to share with you that we've got 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds in some states, 16-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 40-year-olds that with no ownership shares at all are performing like an owner, performing like a manager, performing like a shareholder. Literally, issue, values, solution. What are the values that apply? And the more the better. What are the behaviors that show up from those values? There's real opportunity here. That brings us to feedback. So first I'm sharing content, then I'm sharing process. We've gone through those 2 in quick overview. Doesn't matter what the content is, doesn't matter what the process is, except to keep being and doing exercise. Feedback is really the most potent part of these 3 pieces. So what we know in recent brain physiology and MRI technology is that feedback needs to be constant and ongoing. I want to give feedback that is data-based, not compliments, not criticism, certainly not sarcasm. Sarcasm sends mixed signals. It sends, I don't know if you're kidding or not, and that's all I'm going to say about sarcasm in the moment. But feedback rather than compliments or criticism, we'll see why in just a moment. The opportunity with constant ongoing feedback is that we now have a culture of communication. In addition, and we're going to talk about what kind of feedback and what the feedback looks like in just a couple minutes. I'm at the end of every day of training, I'm going to do a scorecard. Remember our conversation about you're hired for the position of host, or you're hired for the position of line cook or sous chef or fry cook, server, whatever it might be. The jobs that you have are hiring, greeting, cutting, garde-manger, whatever it might be, prepping. I've got a scorecard on a score from 1 to 5, 1 being poor, 5 being superb mastery. I need to get a score of 4 or better on everything we covered today to get my certification. And the way people get raises in my company, in my restaurants, and our clients' restaurants is I get it certified. You want a raise? Get one. Here's how. Get certified. Go through the training segment. If you're prep cook 1, Prep Cook 2 gets another $1 an hour. You should get certified. When are you going to get certified? That opportunity. So with feedback, focused on the content, focused on the process, lots of exercises, lots of, if we've got an LMS in place, reading, looking, watching the videos, gamifying the training, getting feedback, moving forward, getting certified to get a raise. Okay. Headline, everything's an interview. I want to ask the question, would I hire the behavior I just experienced? So if I'm the trainer, if I'm the manager on duty, I see Jose or I see Sally running through the dining room or through the kitchen. I see somebody greet a guest at the door or hand delivering product in a carryout bag. Would I hire the behavior I just experienced? Were they on brand on purpose? If yes, celebrate. If no, course correct right now. So imagine doing a shift with pom-poms, being a cheerleader and supporting the team with, hey, great eye contact, great carry. I love the handoff. Whoa, incredible job wiping down the table and re-sanitizing the towels and the process. No, course correcting. Hey, here's what I need you to do differently. We'll talk about this more in just a moment. Last couple slides, coaching behavior. I want to, instead of coaching attitude, I want to coach behavior. So think about, again, tangible evidence I just saw, arm movement, body movement, eye contact, smile or no smile, handing off a plate, carrying a plate, using a knife with my fingers curled in or not, right? Any of those touch points in the brand, what are the behaviors that we've defined as excellent? And if I'm not seeing those behaviors, I want to coach to the positive. Here's one thing I saw you do really well. Love the way you picked up the knife. I love the way you grabbed the product. To take your performance further, curl your fingers in so that at the worst, I'm going to trim off a little bit of skin, not cut off your fingertip. So to take your performance further, what we know from brain physiology and MRI technology is feedback as a system actually creates flow. So the concept of flow, mastery. I want my managers, I want my trainers to be coaches, coaching to the positive. Here's what I saw that worked to take your performance further, go here. As opposed to no, not that way, not that way. Stop, you didn't do it right. Instead, when I did do it right, I want to acknowledge you did that well to take your performance further. What do you do? And remember, there's no common sense. What we call performance feedback, again, rather than compliments or criticism, these are two quotes and literally it's a ritual. So this is culture. This is the way we play. One thing I did or one behavior I did really well is I made direct eye contact. One thing I did really well is I walked up to the table and with my mask on, I stopped 5 feet away from the table, but that said, able to communicate with the guest and share with them the specials for the menu. My tone of voice was, my volume was loud, my tone of voice translated to engaged. To take my performance further, I need to not read the specials, I need to have them memorized. That's what I mean. So one thing I did well, to take my performance further, do X. I could do this also as a trainer. One thing I thought you did really well was, and to take your performance further, do X. Last but not least, as a trainer, as a manager, as the owner, lose the word why. Shift to what. If I use the word why 5 or 6 times, it tends to make my team members function like 6-year-olds. It turns them into little kids and can get some people really, really edgy. Instead of why did you do that? I can ask the same question in a different way. What was your motivation to make the first approach to the table in that way? How is it that you wrapped the bag, closed the bag, just rolling it instead of stapling it? Please share with us your motivation for. I'm interested in how you share with us more about your decision making. I want, last but not least, for you to lose the word but. Likely you know the word but negates everything that comes from it, before it. As an alternative to the word but, use however, or use at the same time. Use and, the simple word and. I need you to be on time, and that will take your performance further. Okay. So in summary, whether I've got an LMS or not, the training process is very, very much the same. I want verbal information, I want visual information, I want exercises, kinesthetic, action, activity, I want feedback, I want to absolutely share the why, the big reason, not just because I'm your boss and telling you why. I want to celebrate experience, but define at the same, but there's but. I want to celebrate experience and at the same time, define excellence for my brand. My training is going to involve content, process, LMS or not, and ongoing feedback, coaching to the positive. Keep training tied to the culture. Keep training being an ongoing part of the culture. Feedback to the positive, shift by shift, not feedback once a week, not feedback once a month. That's not feedback. Feedback literally multiple times during a shift, multiple times during training. Last but not least, in the training environment, score. Go ahead and break down performance into behaviors. Give it a score of 1 to 5 or 1 to 4. Define passing as a 4 or higher. And once I get 4s on everything, I'm certified, and guess what? I get on the payroll and start pulling shifts. If I want to raise, certify the next level of the training. So on that, I've gone pretty darn fast. If you've got questions, we're going to take some questions right now. And if you need or feel free to be in touch with me if you'd like. My email is rudy@mick.com. My website's Mick, and the phone number up there will be a direct line to me. Amy, I wonder what questions you've got. Let's see, I see one in the post. I was going to ask about who should oversee the process from the staff. Also, how to handle long-time employees who might see this if they did something wrong. So what's interesting with training is as you shift from kind of not defining excellence to starting to define excellence, some of your team members existing are going to go, wow, now we're playing at a whole other level. I'm not the only one pulling the wagon. Some team members may actually get a little upset and you're asking more than you've ever asked. Yeah, I am. We're taking the bar to the next level. Amy, I heard some sound there. Other questions, maybe?
Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation and sharing your expertise. This is great. The one question was, this organization said that how do you handle employees that you have not yet hired back when you're starting this hiring process as we go, post-COVID? Do you feel an obligation to hire back old employees, or do you open up the search process?
I would do both. So the question is, would I hire back folks that have been laid off? So there's a nuance here in most states. You need to check the given state that you're in, or the given part of the world, province that you're in. Most states in the United States, if I've laid someone off, I have to, by law, give them a chance. By the term layoff, I have to give them a chance to reapply. The opportunity is if we've taken performance further, we've defined excellence at a level that we never did before, which we have this opportunity with COVID. What I can do is, okay, you were laid off, or maybe you were laid off, we're bringing you back on board. However, we are going to, in fact, go through a whole nother interview because the whole training process has gone further. So there is legality there. If team members were terminated, there's no obligation to automatically give them an interview. With layoffs, you need to give them first crack.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Another question that came in is, you know, we have a small staff and not a full HR department. You know, who should be overseeing this, and how do you continue to implement this? You know, after this first process, who on the staff should sort of be overseeing that?
Well, so what a great question, and welcome to our world, right, of independent restaurants. So many operators are small, and I'm running the business, not growing the business necessarily, running shifts. So I would think about the question of first of all, training, defining excellence, getting all of this stuff developed is worth the investment. It is, from retention to ongoing sales building. So whoever is going to, we think often, we put it in terms of a mission team. So sometimes the mission team is comprised of a manager and team members. Sometimes in a really small environment, it might be the owner and a couple of team members. Maybe it is, so the short answer is, think of your most committed, highest performing team members, employees, and work with them to define excellence. Likely they'll be so good at what they do that they won't, like a Michael Jordan playing basketball, that you may not be, or a LeBron James, more recent, you may not even be able to answer what I do first. So just start with them. If they start in the middle, then work backwards. Well, what do you do right before that? What do you do before that? Or if they start towards the beginning, then work to the completion of the guest experience, whether it's greeting at the door, whatever, or it's something in the kitchen. Actually trust the team. As long as we're working on defining excellence, number one. Number two, what are the behaviors? So watch out for good job, watch out for good attitude, bad attitude, funky, any sort of words, we call those meaning making words. Whatever good attitude is, or good knife skills, break it down, break that meaning making down into behaviors and just start. If you're a really small, without rambling on, if it's a really small team, this is going to mean longer hours for a little bit. It'll pay off in spades. Absolutely. Somebody else, another question.
Well, this is great information. I don't have any other questions from our audience. So I do want to thank you again for this terrific presentation, and just remind our audience that they are invited to visit our website, westernfoodexpo.com/live at your table, to view this recording in the coming days, and also see our other sessions that will be running again all day tomorrow. So with that, thank you very much, Rudy. We appreciate your participating in our event today, and we hope to see you soon.
It's been great to be at the Western Expo, and thanks everybody for your rapt attention. Feel free to be in touch with me if you've got other questions I can be of support with. Amy, thanks so much. All the best.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye now.